Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Man Cave Meals. This week I've got a really fun cook. I'm hoping it's going to be fun. Something I've not really had the proper opportunity to do before. I came across a local shop that had a beautiful Thor's hammer cut, which is a beautifully trimmed bone-in beef shank. And I'm going to show you that here in just a moment. But we're going to slow smoke that guy. I'm going to make some stone ground cheese grits, and we're going to smoke that meat. We're going to tear it apart. We're going to serve it over some cheese grits, and we're going to make hopefully what will be an amazing sauce from the pan drippings and bone marrow from this cut. So let's get started. The star of this show is this big old 6 3/4 pound beef shank that's been nicely Frenched. It's just a monster. I'm really looking forward to this. So what I'm going to do here off camera is I'm going to trim off some of this, and we're going to tie it up and make it look nice so we can season it. We'll be right back. So I've got this cleaned up a bit. I've tied it up nice and tight with some butcher's twine, and what I'm going to do here in my prep tub is I'm just going to shake some of my favorite homemade beef rub on here, and if I think about it, I'll give you the recipe for what I'm using here in the video description. So I'm just going to put a nice healthy coat of this on here, and I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes to tack up, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator. Okay, I've got that seasoned, and I'm going to do like I always do. I'm going to toss this in the refrigerator just like you see it here overnight, and we'll be back first thing in the morning. I've got the Myron mixing bark fired up here, and I'm running at 250 degrees. So we're going to set this guy right here in the middle, and I'm going to let this cook during the first stage until the internal temperature of this meat gets up to about 165 or maybe even 170 degrees, and then we'll be back. We are about 5.5 hours in on this cook, and my internal temperature on this guy is up to about 165, and I'm really happy with what it looks like at this point. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy off. We're going to double wrap it in foil and bring it back. Okay, so I've given this guy a double wrap in foil. We're going to set it back in there, and we're going to ramp the temp in the grill up now to around 300 degrees and let this finish. And the internal target temperature of the meat that I'm looking for here is going to be somewhere around 202 to 205. Okay, we are about 8 hours and 15 minutes or so into this cook. The internal temperature of my meat's up to about 202. I'm pretty happy with where the tenderness is. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this off, take it inside. I'm going to drain all of the liquid that's in this foil out into my fat separator. I'm going to rewrap this and let it rest while we make a pan gravy for this. So I've separated my liquid and most of my fat apart here. There's a little bit of fat left in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to top that up to about the 2-cup mark with some beef stock. We're going to start with this pan gravy or pan sauce by melting a couple of tablespoons of butter in my saucepan. And while my butter is starting to come to a simmer, I've got a clove of garlic that I ran through the microplane grater, and I'm also going to put on a couple of shakes of freshly cracked black pepper, and we'll just let that start to sizzle. And after that butter starts to sizzle, I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons of flour to make our roux. And I'm just going to stir this over medium-high heat until that flour starts to become fragrant and change color. And as this roux starts to turn a little bit brown, I'm going to let it go a little further. I want just a little bit darker brown on this particular roux for this sauce. And I believe I'm about where I'm comfortable. I like that color on that. So then we're going to start drizzling in our liquid And I'm going to stir that in and let that tighten up real quickly. And as that tightens up, I'll just add some more. Until I get about all of this in here, I'm probably going to use the whole 2 cups of this liquid here to get a consistency that I'm happy with. And if it ends up being thicker than I'd like it, I can always add additional beef stock to it. So now I have all that liquid in there, and we're going to bring that up to a simmer to thicken it up. And now I'm ready to work this meat apart. I have gone ahead and taken the string off, and I'm just going to set that bone aside. That's a huge bone. And I'm just going to take my fork and work on shredding some of this. I'm not going to shred all of it. I'm going to keep some of this in larger pieces, but what we're going to do now is we're going to plate up some of this with our grits and our sauce. I'm going to start this out with a nice scoop of those beautiful Gruyere cheese grits. And then on top of that, we're going to put on some of this amazing Thor's Hammer shredded beef. And then on top of that, we're going to drizzle on a little bit of that beautiful gravy sauce that we made. That looks like a perfect consistency on that. And then just for fun, I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of green onion to finish that off. Man, that looks amazing. You know we're going to have a taste of that. So let's dig in. Let's get a little bit of beef, grits, and sauce all onto one fork. Oh man, that's crazy. That is absolutely amazing. Guys, the Thor's Hammer is let's call it a man cave version of beef shank or osso buco, you know, that you would use to make osso buco. It's just several layers of it still not cut. The flavor on that from the smoked meat is crazy. It's incredible. But this is just one way you can serve this meat. You can chop this meat. You can make taco meat with this. You can make sandwiches with it. It's just kind of unlimited. This would also make a great beef base if you shredded it or chopped it a little finer for a shepherd's pie or whatever. I mean, guys, this is crazy. I'm actually, this has surpassed my expectations of what I was going to get out of that. The grits, I didn't show you how I made the grits. I have decided I'm going to do a separate video on how I make my stone ground grits, because there's so many things that grits can be a base for in our barbecue and grilling world. So I'm going to make a separate video on that. But guys, the Thor's Hammer is also not easy to find. You're going to need a specialty butcher that can get that for you. There's a few places online you might be able to find it. I think porterroad.com has it. You may or may not be able to get it from Wild Fork. I'm not sure about that, but if you can find this, definitely treat yourself to one and cook it. And it's a great experience, guys. So until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.